Years ago, when my wife and I had purchased a home, the builder had told us it might be part of an HOA depending on how many homes they ultimately constructed. We were among the first 5 buyers, so we pretty much had free rein to change what we wanted via permissions from the builders that those changes would be added to what was turned over to the HOA, and for as long as we lived there, the changes could stay. The one change we did was add a motion security light on the back of our fence because my neighbor's kid would smoke weed there and I didn't want to smell it sitting on my patio or when I had the windows open on nice evenings. Well, that went up my neighbor's bad side ways for whatever reason, and she refused to believe her kid would be doing that, even though it didn't point towards any other home, just the grass between my fence and the woods. It kept the kids from smoking weed there without calling the cops on something so foolish and petty. But since it was cleared from the builder, she couldn't do anything. Well, 6 months later, we ended up with an HOA who made it her first priority to get the lights removed. Several other neighbors followed what I did whose homes faced the wooded area. The requirement to get it changed since they were builder approved was 80% of the community, so the only votes to keep came from those of us on the back of the property. So we have to remove them being permanent changes. Not even 3 days later, her kid is again back there smoking weed. The HOA counter to why I had it was to call the police non-emergency number, but it's absolutely stupid to risk some kid's life up because he wanted to smoke weed, when that's an issue his parents, who don't believe he does it, deal with. So now I'm pretty livid, this North American land whale cried to the point I had to remove a cheap and non-disruptive fix. She refused to be a parent and keep her kid from impeding on us, so it's time for me to be petty. The next day, after her kid first went back there, I go out, buy a 12-section of 4x4 wire concrete, a large planter, and 3 6,000 lumen floodlights, and build essentially a mini portable stadium light setup rigged to the motion sensor. So whenever anyone passed by my fence, instead of being a small area immediately behind my house lit up, the sun came out to the woods with one light giving her home an X-ray. The first time her kid went back there, it was glorious. I got a picture of him with his bong in hand before he skirted off so I could show her proof, and it sent her through the roof getting those free X-rays. I showed her the picture, and she still didn't care, saying, if it goes off again, I'll call the police, and I was fine with it because I told her they'd see the same picture I'd just shown her. In reality, they wouldn't, but Martha, the manatee, didn't know that. And I didn't expect her to try to call my bluff, which she never did, just complained to the HOA. A lot? In the morning time, I'd lay the contraption down so it couldn't be seen, and raise it up after it got dark. About a week after this, I got a summons to the HOA meeting that's happening that week, and since it was disciplinary for my contraption, their lawyer was there, and they wanted to hear the case. So I lay everything out from builder to pictures showing how the original light didn't shine any brighter than the one on her porch and couldn't be seen from inside the home. Her vendetta to change the HOA rules to suit what she wanted. 3 of the 5 other neighbors who had to remove their security lights were also there to argue for getting them back when I went. After about 40 minutes, the lawyer comes back and pretty much said, well, Mr. and Mrs. X, you are right. This isn't a permanent structure, so it technically is allowed, but you can't have a light facing her property any longer. In addition, by the 1st of next month, you will all be allowed to reinstall your smaller lights as they did provide a measure of security that benefits the property as a whole. So Martha the manatee was blessed with another week of the sun on a pole and being very mad about it. Those of us who lived facing the woods got our lights back, and after reselling the lights, I made most of my money back I spent on supplies making that monstrosity. It was absolutely worth spending the few $100s to out-petty a bad parent and insufferable neighbor. Just for those who don't know, so I am 16, almost 17, and my sister is 14. We were raised by a single dad who is ex-military and firmly believes if someone starts a fight with you, then you should end it. I attend a pretty swanky boarding school in the UK, and there's plenty of EMs and EKs running around, but are the sort of rich and don't realize they're a bit dense sort of people. Me and my sister are in separate boarding houses, but see each other most days. I love my sister and often feel the need to stick up for her. In the boarding house next to mine, there is EK. He is 17 and a very unpleasant young lad. He's not particularly bright as a student, but he's in the first team for rugby and is generally quite athletic. He's been known to be a bully for a while now, but he also seems to have a darker side, and many girls have accused him of making creepy comments and openly threatening them. Around the start of October, our drama class began to do casting for High School Musical. Sister is absolutely obsessed with it for some reason. So, me, being the good brother and one of the favorite drama students, I literally take it as a scholarship. I managed to get her a role as a backup dancer, and she was really happy. EK also decided he wanted a foray into drama and was also cast as a backup dancer, since his acting and singing were questionable at best. This means he was working closely with my sister and the other dancers most of the time. No problem. Right. Wrong. My sister tells me in the first 2 days that he was already getting creepy with her and some of the other girls, more concerningly, younger backup dancers. I talked with my GF about it and decided the next day I'd have a polite word with him. I'm slightly autistic, so I sometimes need guidance on how to handle things like this. Next day, when I went into the drama room, I clearly heard him say something which I will not repeat here to my sister and another girl. I walked up to him, already not in a fantastic mood, and said something along the lines of, "Don't you dare say that to my sister or any of the girls here, you understand?" This jerk replies, "Or what?" This next part I clearly didn't think through properly, but I said, "Well, I could either knock your lights out or get you kicked out of the play and the rugby team with what I've heard you say." Now, I'm about 6 foot, 135 pounds, and am by no means weak. But this guy is easily 6'3", 170, 190 pounds, but nevertheless, he grunts some agreement out and buggers off. I thought nothing of it, and the play went off without a hitch. Cut to 3 weeks ago, and at 9 p.m. when our homework time ends, I decided to go out with my girlfriend to celebrate 8 months. And I'm so glad I did. We're walking behind the main school building when we heard someone clearly in distress. My GF immediately went to find a teacher, and I ran over to see what was going on, since at first I thought someone had tripped or something. I find EK has backed my sister into a corner and is threatening her and shouting obscenities, standing in a very predatory stance. She's lying on the floor with a noticeable bruise on her face and sort of shouting in anger and pain. I immediately sort of grabbed EK and started throwing punches. My only goal was to get this monster away from my sister. Now, despite him having size and most definitely strength on me, I quickly realized every time he hit me it didn't hurt so bad, but when I hit him, he felt it more than I did. I attribute this to the fact I've gotten beaten up my whole life, mainly because people assume the autistic kid won't fight back while this prancy little princess probably isn't used to being hit. Eventually, I got him in a headlock, which I did maybe hold for a bit too long, and when I let go, he didn't fight back, so I just got up and started kicking him. I'm not one of excessive violence, but something about this predator attacking my tiny, relatively defenseless sister had me seeing red. Of course, in a case of very bad timing, my GF and one of our teachers show up. The teacher naturally separates us and gets us both sent to the headmaster's office the following morning. Fairly enough, seeing that EK is badly beaten and that the teacher saw me kicking him, the headmaster thought I was the aggressor, which also makes relative sense since EK's disciplinary record is for the most part clean and mine has a few fights on it. EM, the queen witch with the Karen haircut, fake nails, and very fake tan skin, arrives and promptly starts to absolutely go crazy on me for assaulting her baby boy. I once again did myself zero favors by bellowing back just as loud about what a piece of trash her child is, all in front of the headmaster. I couldn't care less either. As far as I'm concerned, EK was about to assault my sister and this witch was defending him. At this point, I was beginning to think that I could be in big trouble. Fights aren't something my school appreciates, and I could maybe even face expulsion. That is, until my GF and my sister show up, having asked the headmaster to hear their side of the story and claiming to have proof. It turns out my sister, the clever princess that she is, had started recording on her phone while it was in her pocket when EK approached her. What a genius she is. The video lasted roughly 7 minutes and was full of EK threatening to assault her, saying how she shouldn't fight back, etc., and ending after the teacher showed up. At this point, the headmaster decides that our parents will have a meeting about EK's behavior and mine. My dad told me that EM basically called me a menace to society, along with saying I should be kept away from the normal kids, okay, which I'm autistic, not psychotic. My dad was infuriated and said at least I didn't raise a pedophile. Amid their bickering, the headmaster showed them the video, or better, a black screen and some audio. EM then tried justifying EK's words by saying, well, she was asking for it, talking to my kid like that. I'm surprised my father didn't cave her skull in for that remark. In the end, EK has been expelled after some other girls also told the headmaster some of the unsavory things EK has said and done to them. His mother has also been permanently removed from school grounds. She was a careers advisor, apparently. My dad is proud of me, and my sister got pizza and will get a new computer for her bravery, she responded to all his creepy comments. Very insultingly, brave of her. I should also mention EK's dad is a charming fellow, also ex-military, and was shocked to his core by both his son's actions and his wife's response to the video. He has profusely apologized both to me and my sister, and has also said to my dad how remorseful he is that he didn't raise his son right. I thought it was fair to add this, just in case anyone thought he was like EM. So this happened about an hour ago. We went to a restaurant for my aunt's birthday to celebrate her 50th. I created a dog poop cake that she had requested from last year. I had gone up to the bar to request the cake, and as I turned around, a tiny baby let out a very short cry. Bear in mind, this baby hadn't made a sound till that point. All I heard was what I hope was a drunken fool shout at the top of his lungs to a waitress, "Get that effing baby to stop crying." What the heck? I watched the mother walk out with the baby. She looked upset. Don't blame her. As I got back to my table, all I heard was this awful fool mimic the baby crying, "Wah, wah!" I was disgusted. I told my family, who all agreed how awful this idiot was. A moment later, I saw a chap get up from the table and go to the poor family to apologize for his friend's behavior. A waitress, who seemed to be consoling the family, looked to be telling this chap off before walking away. The fool was then berated by staff. All I could think was that Bit served him right. It seems they were kicked out, but they could have left naturally. Edit to add, my aunt burst out laughing when she saw the cake, literally crying with laughter, and found the whole thing hilarious. She wants rabbit poop next year. I said no.